look at that, 2:15-ish. So we'll running a little behind the 2:15 line, which is why there's an ish in front of it, because I got to visit with somebody who moved away, and it was so wonderful to see her again. So I absorbed every minute of it. So today, there's a intention on my part anyway, to follow up with a newsletter that just went out. You'll start seeing some, hopefully some organization, some continuity with what shows up in the newsletter, ends up being a Friday talk, or unless I go totally rogue and just fly on whatever the heck I want to talk about, that's likely to happen too. So what this week is about is recognizing the energy that you're using and what are you portraying. And I was thinking about how we have all this English language that is not only complex, but it's so utterly confusing sometimes, where we have the two, which are you talking about? Excuse me, which are we discussing? But all of that language that can get so confused on top of communication issues can compound what any of us are trying to understand about ourselves or about someone else. So I thought I would, of course, share a funny story. Well, they're funny to me. I hope they're humorous to you and they apply, of how I came to be thinking about this and how I feel like I want to help people learn to communicate, yes, authentically, yes, clearly. But I feel like you have to know yourself pretty well in order to do that, because so many people just launch off with somebody else's opinion, like they haven't even run it through their own factory yet. And I want to encourage that we know ourselves so well that we can take into consideration what other people are sharing with us, but are we really agreeing with it? So, thank you for joining, ladies. Good to see you. So what happened a couple weeks ago is I was having a conversation with someone, and she was being tough on herself for having acted a little rough, and she did. There's no denying poor behavior when we use it. It happens, right? But that doesn't make us bad people. It just means that we lost our edit button somewhere, or we didn't employ the manners that we were raised with. Hopefully we were raised with. And in the dialogue going back and forth, what she said to me was, well, I was an absolute punk. And it cracked me up. I thought it was endearing, but also just funny. And because we all have that punk inside of us, don't we? That defiant, sometimes it acts like a 4-year-old who's being a punk. Sometimes it's the teenager punk. Those are the tough ones. And sometimes it's that person who never really grew up, who is holding on to whatever anger issues they have. And they live in a state of punkiness. So one of the things that I was born with, came into this lifetime with, is like a radar detector. So when people are speaking and using words, it's like this biofeedback that I get, right? That they might say, a really easy one is that we all know is when you say, how are you? And somebody says, oh, I'm fine. And you can feel whether they're off or not. Well, take that to like the FiOS level. And that's what happens with me is I can feel if someone's in discord, like if they're telling me that everything's working out fine in their life and that they truly believe this or truly believe that. Yeah, sometimes I'll hear in my head, bullshit. But most of the time I'll feel like a little sadness because whatever they're saying isn't matching what's going on inside. And I don't think we have to spill everything on people in the grocery store or stuff like that. But I do think that we have to at least be honest with what we're feeling. And then if you feel comfortable enough with yourself, you can share it. So when this person said to me that she was being a punk, I agreed to a certain degree, because, grown people should not just lose their stuffing with others. I just don't think it's necessary. You know how to walk away, do it. But there was another vibration underneath, and a lot of the times you can feel that resonance, right? That it is under what somebody's saying. That's the feeling, I don't think they're so fine, even though they're saying they're fine. You're feeling that other resonance, the truth of their communication. And what I was feeling was a sense of spunk. So the punk was right, but we needed to add an S. And while we do need to be accountable for our behavior and apologize, which she did right away, I believe that in what was missing there was her own acknowledgement that for the first time in a very long time, she was standing up for herself, because what was coming back on the other side wasn't okay either. So both of them have dropped into their punkiness. So that spunk feeling, it's not just putting sugar on something and hoping to take away the sour. It's not about that, and it's not reframing to have something fit because it just sounds better that way, or placating her, because I don't do that in my practice. It wasn't that at all. I felt like it was my role to stay neutral, to watch it, to see how I could help and bring another view in there. And when I felt the spunk that was in there, there's no way I'm letting that go, because we all, I think, have experienced how challenging it can be to get your own life force energy up enough to feel a little spunk. So my question and request of anybody over the age of 3 would be that they look at where am I employing, and where am I employing my punk self versus my spunky self, or my punky self versus my spunky self. It's kind of fun to say after a while. You just don't look up the other vernaculars for either of those words. It's a little scary on Google. So Deb says, in a discussion with someone the other day, we were talking about the authentic self and beliefs, and the other person said, we don't take other people's medicine. So in other words, what is best for someone else might not be good for me. Oh, right. We don't take other people's prescriptions or things like that. I agree with that, but I think what's happened is that the authentic self takes effort. It takes being willing to admit that I see what you're doing there and know that doesn't resonate with me, but that's okay that you're doing that. People are quick to jump on the bandwagon of someone else, but to actually stay in a place of authenticity or knowing of self takes that initial practice. How do you know what you believe in if you're not asking yourself questions? If you're not questioning, geez, that didn't feel right. Or I don't really believe what my parents believe. That's okay. You can still love them. It doesn't mean that you have to ignore them or not be with people if we have different beliefs. I love having discussions with people when we have different beliefs, because sometimes it's opened my eyes to, maybe I had a judgment in there or something. But it's because we are pod-like, we like our groups and our tribes and everything. It can be very difficult to stand in that independence and to even hold the space of, I hear what you're saying, But in Deb's words, I'm not taking your medicine because it was not prescribed for me. And, antibiotics don't treat a viral thing anyway, So the act of being able to employ that spunky self that Julie's getting back in touch with, I can see why you would really like her, Julie. Just the little bit I know of your spunky self and the time I got to spend with it, I do feel like that would be a lot of fun. It does take self-reflection. It takes a commitment. Now, that doesn't mean you have to sit on a cushion for hours and hours a day and tap into that. Fine, if you've got that space, but sometimes that can roll you around in a circle and then you just get into looping thoughts and it's not beneficial either. But being able to even look at ways you've acted in the past have a great impact on making the delineation between your punky self and your spunky self, because your punky self will want to force an opinion on someone. You'll be dismissive of what they know or what they say. You'll want to want them to join you in what you believe. All we have to do is look to our political system to see there's a lot of punks in the world. Don't be one of them. Be in political office, but don't be a punk. But so when you're saying to someone, "Oh, I'm just kidding," if that follows a statement you've said, you're a punk, at least in that moment. Own it, change it, figure out what you feel is lacking in yourself that you felt the need to poke at another. Now, I've said before, I'm very good with my one-liners, and they used to be sharp. Years ago, they were very sharp. And there are some people in my family who still think I'm in that space, but that obviously don't know me well, or haven't had a conversation in the last 10 years, to realize that I had to look at that and I had to see, what am I doing? I'm deflecting pain onto someone else, calling it humor. Sarcasm is usually punkiness. You can have humor without being sarcastic. If you're in a place of being sarcastic, there's some hurt in there that you might want to look at. And one of the commitments I made to myself was to look at how I was communicating with people. Now, I'm still very funny, but if there's anything that's going to come out of my mouth that is directed at the other person other than in fun and they are joining in it in a genuine way, I'm just going to zip it, because, we can go there. We can all go there. So if you find yourself wanting to poke another so you feel better, you're a giant-sized punk. And I'm just asking that we all acknowledge this little bugger that we have living in there, and then we give it some love. And then we ask, is that serving myself? Is it serving other people? What is the point anyway? Because if you're hurting another, energetically, that's just going to circle around and it's going to take away from your own frequency. And I personally think you owe it to yourself to do that internal work to see what is happening that would want you to play in that way anyway. And a lot of people, a lot of the punkiness you see in the world is because we can be behind these electronic devices, right? And we can be commenting and not necessarily have to show up and take any responsibility for what we've said. But I also think it's a great place that we can use it to create more spunkiness in the world, to bring forth that spunky that is you. Because if you're employing your spunky self, you feel lit up. You feel excited about something. You feel passionate about a subject or a direction in your life. There's a determination that doesn't have an agenda. You just want to share with people. And you're not saying that they have to see it your way or that they have to, jump in the boat with you. But you're saying, isn't this fascinating? Isn't this exciting? And to me, it's an indication, truthfully, of life force energy. If somebody has a very low life force energy and they're not very lit up about their life, spunkiness is going to be a stretch. It's going to be difficult to achieve. It might be incrementally, and that's fine. That's fine. You create your spunky self wherever you can. But to live in that energy of, oh, hi guys, thanks for joining. To live in that energy of life really does rock, and that we have the ability to impact others. Let me see if I can do it with my creativity. Let me see if I can understand where this other person is coming from, and then bring my spunky self to the party. You may not all, want to go for a run with me, or to flip tires, or to sing at the top of your lungs, or whatever the thing is. But you can tell by my Facebook posts, that's okay. I'm sharing my spunkiness because it lights me up. And I think sometimes we can give other people a little bit of example of what that might look like, and then they can figure out what spunks in their life. So the idea of self-regulation, self-exploration, and then even titration, because sometimes we got to move that needle a little bit, is being inclusive of your soul, right? Your soul knows it's here to learn, and it knows it's going to experience those moments of being a little punky, and yet stepping back and looking at that and saying, okay, I'd rather not do that anymore. So if there's any examples out there, I'm going to scroll down because you wonderful people keep joining and I love it. So if there's any examples of needing to shift your punkiness, feel free to share, but also share your spunkiness if you'd like to in the comments. Julie saying, when we shine, we show others what it looks like and give them permission to shine too. Yes, I agree. And this is going to be Vicky's response here. I don't think we give anyone else permission. I don't think that's our power. And I know what Julie means here. I don't think she's thinking she's in charge of the world or anything. But that's a vernacular that's out there. And when I first started, I was talking about how the English language is so confusing sometimes. And that we have words that mean different things. And we don't have as many levels as other languages do to go further. So I believe we can be the example, and then they can give themselves permission to shine, because then, Julie, that also allows us off the hook to hold that space, to be the example of, that they will then grab on and take that to other places. And if you guys see Julie's name there and you want to go to her page, she puts up the most amazing graphics, really just beautiful messages and everything. I always appreciate them. So like I say almost every week, if you can follow yourself around, if you can look at, am I employing my punk or my spunky self? Am I employing the part that is playful with others, that is honestly wanting to know what lights them up, what's exciting to them, what is joyful? Because I call it a contact high, and this is why I've never had to do drugs, because when somebody's so excited about what they do and they're sharing it, that you can get that feeling in your energy field and you can feel lit up. The challenge can sometimes be is that we then take out that measuring stick, right? And then we say, well, I don't like to run, or I don't want to raise, what are they called, Barb? Chickens or something? Like, I don't want to do all of that stuff, but the ability to be excited because somebody else is excited about what lights them up, that's connectiveness. And that is a way to heal any of the boo-boos that you might have within inside. And taking that bravery, taking that step to embrace other people's perspectives is really a gift you give yourself. So if you find yourself resisting somebody else's ideas, and sometimes it can be like your grown kids or something, and or a friend who says she's going to go do that, date somebody, or they're going to move across the country. And I actually had somebody call me and say, how dare you say it's okay for someone to move? I don't want him to. What? That's activating your punk self. That's trying to overlap somebody else's life because it won't work for you. So if there's any kind of resistance in there, any kind of feeling inside, or any fresh mouth that's coming out, you need to check in and just see if you can get excited about something in your own world so that you're not picking on another. And that includes when you're posting online. So what in your world could use a little spicing up, a little bit of embracing that enlivened, joyful, excited, all of those other synonyms to spunky? Like what really needs it in there? And you might find that it feels really good to give the kitchen a really good scrub down, and then that's where you show your spunky self. It may be encouraging a young person, being a mentor. It may be pushing yourself a little bit to go beyond what your brain says is capable. When one part of your brain is saying, absolutely, you have that, you're amazing, and the other part is like, yeah, but go sit on the couch, that's more fun. That dialogue that's in there, if you point your attention to, you have this, you can complete it, you're fine, you've got the skills, eventually that part that tells you that go sit down or play it small, limit yourself, any of those other diminutive statements, if they eventually fly out, and then you wonder why you ever gave them any credence to begin with. So I'm so grateful to know all of you spunky ladies who chimed in today. I wish you the best of weekends. And please comment and come back and visit and say what you did to increase a little bit of vitality into your world this weekend, the following week. There's no timeline here. And then acknowledge, you don't have to do this publicly, but acknowledge if you are trying to assert your own opinion on others, and if you found your punky self living in there anywhere. So go out, do great things, and thank you so much for showing up and for your comments. Bye.